Hey everybody, and welcome to Hyrule Hijinks episode 7. And Ben, I may say, potentially, probably, the last Hyrulian Hijinks for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Wow, there you go.
I have finished the game, finally,
Oh, wow.
yesterday. I did it. I bloody did it,
wow.
but I've got a lot to talk about.
We do have a lot to talk about. Well, yes.
Been a week.
I was coming into this being like, I'm not sure. Well, I've got nothing to talk about. I did nothing in the game, and I was going to come into it and be like, we can do many more of these because I feel like we're on the brink. So yeah, you finished the game. All right. Well, this may be the last one then. It may be the last one for now. We may do like a follow up in the distant future. But well, I don't want to keep
Maybe
you
for a DLC or something, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I did. Of course.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Let's not beat around the bush too much then, because we're going to have a lot to talk about, and it's going to take a while. So,
It will.
you finished the game.
I did. So I want to start with my
Okay.
stats update because that's
Okay.
probably the funniest part.
Okay.
Okay. So from like least interesting to more interesting, I've got last week I had 72 Korok seeds.
Yep.
I got 77, so I only got 5 more.
Yep.
Last week I've still got 3 rings of stamina. That's as high as you can go. Last week I had I think 2 batteries. This week I had nearly 4. I had 2 and 2/3.
Still not as many as me. That's the one thing I'm beating you on.
There you go. There you go. Last week I had 57 light roots. This week I have 85. Benjamin, last week I had 119 shrines. This week I had 152. I got all the shrines.
You did all of them?
I
You
did them
all of
all.
them
Before I finished the game.
Oh, maybe we won't have another one to do. That's crazy.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so that means I also had 38 hearts because there's not
Wow.
enough to get 40.
Wow. Yeah, no, clearly not.
No.
You've been-
So
You've been grinding.
I have. I just kept getting stuck on just doing the shrines, and I ended up with like 10 or 12 left. And I'm like, I might as well. Like, it was just all sky ones. So it was just a bunch of figuring out how to get to different islands that weren't super easy to get to.
Yeah.
Not all of them you could just shoot up from a tower and fly to. There were a bunch where you had to like build something. So done every shrine in the game.
Did you get a special thing for doing all the shrines? I've heard.
I did.
Yes.
So I got a weird Zonai outfit that makes Link kind of look like a furry, but without fur.
Very cool. Very cool.
It's real weird. It's a single item outfit, but it's
Covers
full
the whole.
body.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. It's real weird looking.
Is it just that? Is there a cutscene, or is it just? Is there a? Don't say what the cutscene is if there is one, or if there's story relation.
I'm pretty sure that's it. I don't think
Okay.
there's like a memory or anything with it.
Okay.
But when you go to the little shrine things,
Yeah.
they basically say like your stamina and vitality is very healthy. Come back to me if you get some. There are other like collectible things where you can upgrade your abilities. Seal something
Yeah.
or others. You can update your abilities with individual.
Yeah.
What do you call them? I'm forgetting their names.
The sages. You can upgrade the sages. Yeah.
Yeah, like Sage Seal. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And I only ever had 3, so I never upgraded any of those. I don't know what they do. I don't know how much more helpful they would have been in the long run.
From what I hear, not very.
There you go. Yeah. So So when you get 4, they act like normal shrine seal things, light tokens, whatever they're called. But they just work on the individual.
There you go. Well, I'm gonna slowly keep chipping away at that target over time. I think I think it could go for a while. I'm just gonna like keep dipping back in and probably doing some shrines. I think that's the main thing. Like I'll probably do some of the other side quests, but I think that's the main thing left that I'm motivated to do because I never did it in Breath of the Wild. I'm like I should get all the shrines
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel like that. I
Breath of the
feel
Wild
like that's the thing that makes me feel like I've completed the game more so than like doing all the quests, or like that's like, okay, I don't have any content to see beyond this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I will say a lot of them, there's like a whole bunch where it is just the one with like the room where you just walk and collect it.
Yeah.
So many of them, like a lot of the shrines are so hidden that is
Getting there
the
is the
challenge
thing.
is getting there. And there's a heap of like take the green stone to the shrine
Yeah.
to actually build the shrine, those sorts of things too. So yeah, there's like, by the time like where I was at, I don't know if there were many actual shrines, like shrine challenges internally, out of the like 30 that I had to do this week.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. One of the ones I liked doing was, there was one where you had to like skate down a mountain to get a shrine. I just remembered that. That was a while back, but that was fun.
Yeah. That was a fun one. I think I did that this week. I hadn't found that one before. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one a lot. That's cool. All right. Well, that's that.
So from last week, like, you know, I hadn't done the Spirit Temple. But that whole sort of extra quest line was really cool, having to go back to
You hadn't even been the Phantoms in the
I hadn't. No. It was a big week. But yeah, so I think straight after that podcast, last week's podcast, I just went and sat down and played and finished it.
Totally.
Like finished the Phantoms.
Yeah.
Which is good. And then just went on that quest line, went and spoke to Pura, who sent me to Kakariko Village, and then you get to go inside the floating ring that's off limits, because Zelda told everybody to keep it off limits, but everyone finds out, that was actually Ganon telling him, so there must be something that he doesn't want us to know, so let's figure that out. And then there's this little sort of quest line where you follow some of the researchers to different areas of the map, or a different area of the map, do some stuff for them, and then you eventually end up in the depths at the Spirit Temple.
Yeah, totally.
Really cool, super unique version of a temple.
I'm just going to flag it now, because we're probably going to get into it pretty soon after. Well, we're going to talk about the Spirit Temple now, but we will be talking about the end of the game. So if you have not finished the game, I would say maybe leave now or right after we finish. But I'll flag it again. But it is just an early heads up that come back to this later once you've finished it, and you can hear our thoughts. Yes. You may not have even done this temple, because this temple leads right into the end, I would say. So we're gonna do that. But yeah, no, the Spirit Temple was fantastic. It was the entire lead up to it, kind of like getting like all the lightning to strike the pillars and stuff, and then
that's right.
Going through all that process, I think was super cool. And I think like the story that it tied into, the idea that of course there's this fifth stage, because we always saw that there was five things there was like 5 things on the hand, and there was like 5 sages in all the memories and stuff, so of course it makes total sense.
But that their like lineage got wiped out. The whole race was wiped out. So there is only the spirit of one left. Of
Minoru, and she keeps herself in a golem, which is just the coolest. That's just the coolest thing. So I will say I got like slightly spoiled on the fact that the golem was a thing that you got. I did see like one video on Twitter where someone was showing off their crazy build, and I just saw the golem come into the back. So that was the slight spoiler, which ultimately but also I had done the depths quest before where you fight the golem beforehand. So, I'd had when you fight Koga and he's in a big golem in the depths. That is the same construct thing. And so it was
I hadn't done that yet, because I did the Yiga clan stuff after this.
After with the golem and stuff. So it was kind of like
interesting.
I had all these like hints towards it, but I will say even having all that spoiled, like the whole temple underground, having to build the golem is still, like, as you said, such a creative and different way of doing the temples. And it, like, I really like that it's kind of like it's like, yes, this is a fifth temple, but like it's like, because we've separated it out from the other stuff, it feels like a really unique thing, whereas the other temples feel like four variations on the same idea. This feels like a separate idea for what a temple could be, and I thought that was super cool.
Then, each part of the thing is like hidden away in a different room. And each one of those rooms has a different puzzle. To try and get that piece out. Which, when you say it, different ways,
sounds a lot like the other ones, but it's the fact that you're carrying this like physical object with you, building this thing.
It's all about like building something and maneuvering an object that you wouldn't normally be able to maneuver out of there if it wasn't for being able to build this stuff.
The one bit in that temple that was the most insane to me, that my brain still like goes, how did this freaking work, is, in one of the puzzles there's a door that is on like a wheel that rotates with a chain.
You gotta attach the wheels on, and then
so it shows you that how that door works at the start of that puzzle, and then at the end you've got to remember how to do it to open the door back up, and it's like just crazy. And my mind is still blown that someone clearly did that within the game. They were playing in the sandbox, and they were like, we're going to make this a puzzle so everyone can see how cool this is.
It's so clever.
And it's just like, it's one of those things where that like is one of the things where the game specifically highlights to you how good their physics system is and how good their systems work. And you're like, yeah, it does work that well. It's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So for anyone that that hasn't played it and isn't playing it or whatever, basically there's a point where you can get a giant wheel and you can attach it to a door, and then you grab a chain and you attach the chain to the wheel. And then when you activate the wheel starts spinning and the chain wraps itself around the wheel to open the door.
I'll try and find video footage of it, because I know a bunch of people have posted about it online. But it's just
kind of like opening a blind.
Totally, and it's the whole thing of
so
like
good.
Because of the way like stuff is powered as well. It's the fact that you just like hit it and then it does it, which makes total sense. But you're like, how? I just They cooked so hard with the game design in this game, and like people had so much fun making this, and it's so clear because especially, and that to me, that dungeon is like the culmination of like look how good our systems are in this game.
It's so good.
Super
Loved
good.
It.
And then you do kind of get an end of temple boss fight, but I'd say it's probably, you fight like another corrupted construct. I'd say it's probably the most underwhelming of them. But again, I feel like
it's pretty easy. You just slap it a couple of times until it hits an electrified fence.
Totally. And I feel like it's not, that's, as I said, this temple's kind of like separate from the others. So it's a bit of a, it's not the focus. Whereas a lot of the other ones is focusing on getting up to the boss and then fighting the boss. This one feels a lot more like the focus is on you kind of rebuilding the construct and
I feel
learning
like
how to use the construct.
I think that boss fight in particular is like really teaching you how to use and fight with it.
Totally.
Because you don't really do that up until then. There's like, you could come across some fights when going from where you build the construct to where that fight is, because you've got to traverse the depths for a while. And you can come across some fights and stuff. I think half of them I just ran away from anyway.
Really? I fought them all. I fought them all. I was like, I'm going to go through and kill all of you.
Nice. That's sick. So that was cool. Loved that one. And then, went back, spoke to Pura. I do like that chunks of like the final parts of this mission, or final parts of this game, they don't give you much direction. Like, you sort of finish this and then it doesn't say like report back to Pura or anything like that. It's just like, well, what do I do now? I guess I'll go talk to Pura. And then she says like, go talk to Joshua. Go and talk to Joshua. Joshua's still talking about the Yeager clan
Yeah.
situation. So I'm like, all right, I'll go do that. So I finished that.
Yeah.
Came back out, went and talked to Joshua again. And then was like, oh, I guess that's done.
Yeah.
But didn't give me anything else.
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, what? Wait a sec.
Yeah.
Like that, I felt like that wasn't done very
well. So the thing here is...
then I talked back to Pura, and then Pura kicked me off on the final part of the mission.
Yeah, so the thing with this is, and again, this is also because I did the Yiga clan super early, is that when the Yiga guy flies away, apparently he talks about how Ganon is under Hyrule Castle.
Yes, he does.
But it's that's kind of supposed to be your thing of like, oh, okay, now I go to Hyrule Castle. But it is this thing of like, I was like, oh, I've done all that, and I totally missed that he said that. So I was like, I had to like go back and talk to Pura, and Pura was like, talk to Joshua, and Joshua was like, oh, you've done all this, okay. And I had to go back and talk to Pura, and then talk to Joshua again, and it's like, I get it. Just tell me where I need to go.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, it's under Hyrule Castle. Like, but
totally.
Yeah, I think I agree that bit maybe wasn't executed so well, but then again, kind of leads into what we talked about last week, which is just that they kind of leave this game open-ended in so many ways. You're going to do stuff in totally different orders for better or for worse. And so it's like, again, there's a section at the end which you kind of just skip over when, if you hadn't done all the memories, it makes you go and do all the memories, but because we'd both done that, you just instantly get to the next bit. So it's kind of, or is that in between? Maybe it's just before the 5th temple. It's like at one of those points. It's somewhere where they're like, go do all the memories. I can't even remember because I literally just skipped past it. But yeah,
I will say, just quickly before we move on to like the final part, the Yiga clan quest.
Yeah.
The very last one where you go towards the Rito and the statues like lead into a wall and then you can't get around it.
Yeah.
Like you can't find a way in the depths.
Yeah.
Couldn't find any chasm markings on the land. So I'm like, well, how do you get in?
Yeah.
Because usually there's little like star sort of markings on the ground on the what do you call it, on the surface map. Couldn't see anything. So I went to Rito Village and I was like walking around a bit, and then I saw a guy camping and he yelled out something.
Yeah.
He yelled out like, excuse me or something.
Yeah.
Just a little speech bubble. Wasn't even noise. It just had a speech bubble.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's this guy doing?
Yeah.
So I went down and he's like, I recognize you from investigations with Pura.
Yeah.
Just so you know, there's a chasm underneath me. And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Like it felt like a fluke, but at the same time, I felt like a genius finding that without looking it up.
Totally. That's one of the other bits where I'm like, I do feel like it could have been executed better, but it also wasn't terrible. But it was a thing where I was like, it also slightly requires you to like clue onto the fact that everything on the above ground and below ground is mirrored, and there's big water around Rito Village, so that's obviously why you can't get through there. But it's like, I had already clued onto that, but it wasn't quite clicking in my head. I was like, why can't I get through this wall? Why can't I like get towards this thing? And then it was kind of, I think I was like talking to some friends in a voice call at the point, and I was like, what's going on? And then they were like, just head to Rito Village and kind of have a look around. And I was like, no one in like, when I talked to people in Rito Village, no one was like telling me, oh, there's this guy down here, which I feel like that's what it needed, was a little like, there's a like, guy,
there's a dude doing some research.
Yeah. So I think that was kind of, it was very cool once you realized it, but I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's kind of how that wraps up, which is, again, I think there's a beauty in what this game doesn't tell you, but every now and then you're a little bit like, just give me a little bit more. Just give me a shred more.
I spent a while in the depths, like running around that and looking for other ways to get into it.
Yeah. Well, it's because they also. My other thing is, you run into someone at the wall, like a random Yiga clan person at the wall, and they're like, "Oh, there must be a way inside, like a cave or something." And so naturally, in my head, I was like, that means there's something in the wall here." That's kind of why I think that's where I got confused by it. I was like, oh, they're telling me there's something down here, and then I walk around and there's nothing down here, and I'm like, what the heck's going on?
Available. Yeah. But yeah, it was really like satisfying finding that without
Yeah.
getting any hints or anything. It was
Yeah.
like just such a fluke.
Yeah.
Seeing that guy and being like, what's that guy doing?
Totally.
But yes, there was it was a weird one, but felt real good.
Yeah. All right. Second chance. If you haven't finished the game and don't want to be spoiled on it again, leave now or get spoiled. But also come back and listen when you have finished the game, and then you can talk to us in the Discord about your thoughts.
Yes. Please do. I'm more than happy to talk about this for years to come.
Oh yes, I'm sure we will. Potentially in future projects that we do.
Yeah.
Might talk about that later. But for now, should we talk about the end of the game, Josh?
Let's talk about the end of the game.
Yeah. Obviously you mentioned we talked to Pura and Joshua, and they're kind of like, all right, head down underneath Hyrule Castle.
Yeah.
And this is going to be interesting because it's going to be different for you versus me, because I did this with about, I think we worked out it was like 17 hearts or something.
Yeah,
you did this with
I had
38
heaps.
hearts.
Yep.
So basically you dive underneath Hyrule Castle. There's a big chasm under there, which you've known for the whole game. But credit to the game, didn't really click to me that of course I could probably just dive down there and find a bunch of stuff. I'm sure other people did, but like...
I think I went down there at one point, and I did find that it dropped down further.
Yeah.
And as I like sort of dropped down, I was like, ooh, like there's enemies down here. I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
Because I think I was just light route hunting for shrines that were on the surface. So when I was like, there's nothing down here, I've already gotten the shrine, nearby or whatever, I dipped out.
Totally. And I mean, it makes total sense. But I think in the back of my head, I was like, oh no, I'll get to die if I go down there because it's underneath the castle. It's all scary and stuff. So I haven't even touched it. But of course, Ganon's down there, so you have to go down there. And I did not have a lot of hearts, not super upgraded armor. I had some good weapons though. I went and prepped a bunch of weapons with like silver horns from a bunch of stuff to go down into there. And there's a lot of enemies. There's a lot of enemies there. So not gonna lie, I ran past most of them until I came up against the Lionel, and I was like, all right, I should probably fight the Lionel.
Yeah. I killed the electric keys. The electric bats. Just to hang out at the top there.
Yeah.
I think I might have cheesed the Lionel a little bit too from that top view.
Yeah, okay.
I think I just shot a bunch of bombs at him until he was maybe about a quarter health.
You had 38 hearts and you're telling me you cheesed the Lionel? I fought it face on.
Nah, not doing that. Because you fought a bunch of like the bigger dragons and stuff, which I never did.
Yeah.
I'm not a Souls player.
And I feel like you haven't played throughout our podcast of this. You haven't played this for the combat bits necessarily. You've been playing it for the rest of it. There's plenty other stuff to get to. But I personally,
I like a collectathon.
Yeah, and I've enjoyed like the combat challenges, the various different enemies you come up against, different ways you can approach those enemies and stuff. So I think that was often what I was like gravitating towards, whereas you gravitated towards doing all like the puzzles and stuff, which I'll get to at some point. But I ran through a lot of stuff. I think at one point I had to cook I put down like the portable pots that had like one use only, and had to cook a bunch of Sunderlions so that I could get my hearts back.
Yep. I had to do that. Just before you fight like the waves of enemies. Sort of waves of the various gloom like moblins and all that sort of thing. I definitely had to do that. I think I probably had like 17 hearts left at that stage. And I'm like, I need to get these back.
Well, you had 17 hearts, so think about how many I had. If I'd lost that many, I was on like 2 hearts at that point. It was rough. But I mean, even saying that, it's like I was running past everything, but I didn't feel like like it felt like the game was letting me up until maybe the Lionel point where it was like, okay, you have to do something.
Yes.
But like it was like it did feel like it was supposed to be overwhelming, and you were kind of supposed to maybe not fight everything, because if you did, you wouldn't have any health left in the end of it.
Yeah. I was wondering the whole way down whether they would replenish your health somehow.
Yeah, no, me too.
And there was a point where I ran, like, you run through down this corridor, and it says like the forgotten, like the forgotten lake or the forgotten fountain or something in this one room.
Yeah.
And there's some water, and it sort of sparkles, and I'm like, sick, free health. Because that's what water, like sparkling water in Zelda means.
Yeah,
and I went and stood in it, and nothing happened.
Nothing.
I was like, what's the point of this room? Why is it labeled like this? And there was nothing there. And then you keep running, and then it just says like forgotten something else. And it's like,
I do like that you kind of go through the areas you were in at the very start of the game as well, though. Kind of go through the little like the rooms and stuff, and all that. You can actually like uncover the ones that were hidden. The murals that were hidden at the start, and they have Big Evil Ganon on it, and Zelda. I think it's Zelda with the sword or something. I can't remember specifically.
Yeah, I think you like. It's got Zelda with the sword, and then like a dragon.
Yeah,
and I think the dragon has like the sword in its head or something as well. Like it's all prophesied.
Yeah, so that was
Very
super.
cool.
That was like a fun little reveal, which you didn't necessarily get unless you. Because the rocks at the start of the game are also very clearly breakable, but you can't break them, which is the annoying thing. So it's like fun that you can finally get back to go and do that. Then run through that whole thing, jump down a bunch, and then this whole time as well, they took away all your summons. Up until they took away all your sage friends. Until
they're like they can't reach you down here.
Yeah, same fighting the Lionel. I didn't have any of my sage friends, and I was like, man, that would be really useful. Anyway, but then you go down into this big, almost, it's all covered in gloom, but it reminds me of, we've been playing Diablo on stream a bunch recently. It reminds me of a bunch of those Diablo areas that are just really gooey, covered in blood. It's basically their version of that.
Pretty much.
With like this weird cocoon.
Family-friendly blood.
Yeah, that Ganon's in. And there's, as you mentioned earlier, there's a little wave mode, which again, not a lot of hearts, stressful. Because I get hit, especially the hardest ones with the Lizalfos, because they will just like, it's not even arrows. They spit at you from ages away, and it's like you almost like instantly get hit, and you can't dodge, and that just takes away a bunch of my hearts.
Yeah, so and like if you're not facing them, like you can just get a barrage of them at once.
That was stressful. The rest of that was the hardest one for me. The rest of them I got in the mech, because the mech also knocks stuff down on one hit, so I would just like keep whacking stuff.
Yeah, nice. I didn't use the mech much after the actual.
It took my thing is it took a while, but because I had so few hearts, I was like, I need to do this in the way that is the most protective, and that was being in the mech. So
yeah, cool, nice. Because at that stage, the actual sages physically turn up.
Yeah, their big come together moment.
For that wave mode. So they turn up. I think a bunch of that as well. I think I just ran around in circles, and the sages were doing damage. I did a bunch of that. Or like, because it was always the biggest enemy of those waves was just chasing you down all the time.
Yeah, totally.
So I think I'd just keep running around until I had enough ground to just do like a bunch of hits on a smaller one.
Yeah.
And then just keep running and running, and then more hits. So and then taking out that big guy right at the end. So you don't get overwhelmed with the little guys. But the big guys are slow enough that you can do that.
Totally.
So yeah, I'm glad we're on the same page with that. That's good.
Yeah, no, and I think it's very cool from a story perspective, having all the sages come in. You get it the same at the end of Breath of the Wild, but I think this is even cooler because they're all physically there, being like, "What's up? We're here to help you." Yeah,
and it's like, is that the first time they're all together?
I think so. Yeah,
together again. Yeah,
they come together in a cutscene at the end, but like
towards the end. Yeah. So it's the first time they're all fighting together, which is very cool.
Yeah.
They help you out. You defeat all those waves. Yeah. And then a gloom version of all of their bosses turns up. And at that stage, I was like, hell no.
Yeah, no, I know.
Hell no. All of them.
Yeah.
5 gloom bosses at once.
And I honestly wasn't putting it past this game to make me do that. It just has some hard moments in this game, so yeah.
Yeah, but thankfully, the sages are like, don't worry, we fought these guys before. We'll handle it. Like, you go.
Yeah.
So then once again, you're alone for the final fight, which is another cool moment. I felt was like they're fighting, their major bosses.
Yeah.
For you to fight your major boss.
Totally. Correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a few weeks since I did this. They do come in at little points right at the end of the final fight as well? Or am I crazy? I feel like they come to help you right at the end of that.
Oh.
I think they do. Like, eventually they're... No, I feel like eventually they're like, oh, I'm here to help. And they do, like, one little helping bit or something. I can't remember. Anyway.
Maybe.
I'm sure someone
it's a cutscene right at the end.
Someone who listens to this might be able to help. But I feel like you kind of, at some point, each of them, like, finishes off their job and then comes in and... but maybe I'm misremembering that. But anyway, you go in for your final fight with Ganon, who at this point still is his old decrepit self, and you're like, am I just gonna fight this like decrepit guy again? But then he sexies up, he gets sexified, sex appeal time.
That's it. It gets real buff real quick.
I mean, it's exactly what happens.
F45.
It's the whole rehydrated Ganon meme that was the thing when the first trailer came out. Was everyone was like, he's dehydrated, and then they made a sexy bit. It's literally that.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah. Anyway, so you're back to normal Ganon, and it's a little bit of you're just kind of fighting normal Ganon for a bit, which he has pretty similar attacks to the Phantoms that you fought. So you can kind of, if you've done them, it feels like the game's kind of like taught you how to fight it. So you do all that. But as is usually the case, it feels a little bit too easy, doesn't it, Josh?
It does. It does.
Yeah. And so obviously you get him down, and then he, I'd argue, gets even sexier when he gets into his gloom form, personally.
Interesting, Ben. Interesting.
But he gets big flowing red hair, turns into the form that we've basically seen in the cutscenes previously, where he gets into the proper Demon King form.
Yeah.
And gets all these gloom attacks, and that's when it gets serious.
Yeah, and I love this. I swear the devs just had a laugh at this.
Yeah.
Because his health comes back.
Yeah.
And his health bar starts where it originally started, and it comes all the way back up.
Yeah.
And then it goes well past where it's meant to, and it just keeps moving and moving and moving until it's not even centered anymore. It's totally off center.
Yeah.
And it's nearly off the screen. It's nearly hit the right side of the screen.
Yeah.
As it
it's so funny because
they got double health.
They definitely could have centered it, but they were clearly like, no, this is funnier.
It's funnier if it's not. So it's such a funny moment. It just keeps going, and it's like, nah, they're not centering. It's just it's going to be off skew for the whole thing, just to make a point of
he's
got
chunky.
This much health now.
He's chunky,
yeah.
I can't. You've got a fresher memory for it, but there's like 3 phases to this bit as well. So he's got a bunch of gloom attacks now as well, which are annoying as hell to kind of dodge out of. But
yes, he does, because he sort of adds extra gloom attacks, I think. I can't even think of what each
he's got like a dash one, then he's got one where he throws a bunch of balls at you.
That's right, and one where there's just like a sphere, like a AoE sort of attack that you can dodge in between different things.
Totally. I think the main sorry, you go. Yeah.
I was just going to say, and then after those, if you successfully dodge, he'll then attack you, and then you have to dodge his attack at the right time to get a flurry rush. Yeah. But then as you try and flurry rush him, he dodges your attack. Yeah. And then re-attacks you, and then you have to dodge again to be able to put damage on him. So you have to like double perfect dash him. Although sometimes you could get close enough to him to get some hits in.
Yeah, totally.
And that's for the most part how I got him. Or that's how I got him right at the end in a couple of times. There were just some times when I could get a perfect first dodge, but not a second one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just can't get his health down. I got him down to like, half of his mega health.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just couldn't get any hits on him because I couldn't get that second.
There's a bit where you have to start parrying, right? Or did you?
I don't think
Oh, okay.
I think I managed to.
I think maybe the bit when you were saying you had to double dodge, because I don't remember having to double dodge. I remember there was a bit at the start where I was like dodging out of the way, and I was able to get him, but then he started dodging my attacks whenever he started doing his own dodges, and I was like, damn, this isn't working. So I think instead of double dodging, I started parrying, and I think that was able to get me. But that's obviously riskier because he does gloom damage, and that hurts.
Yeah. So I don't think I did any parrying.
But it's interesting
to know. The only
know.
parrying I did in the game was for a shrine that teaches you how to parry.
Good.
I think that is the only time.
Well, it's good to know there is another way of doing it, because that was kind of the thing when I mentioned to you last week. I was like, get good at parrying, or like practice your parrying, and that was because I was worried that there wasn't another. But clearly, there is like a backup way to do it if you're not able to parry.
I think
I think is good, because parrying is quite a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, totally. That and the dodging. But I think it's because he does like a little bit of a billboarded like charge up before he does his big gloom attacks.
Yeah.
And although it's risky to get close to him at that stage because it's better to be further away to be able to dodge those things, I think if you get close enough, fast enough to him while he's doing that charge, you can get some hits in.
Yeah.
And then it can like knock him around, and then
totally.
he dodges out of the way and then starts again.
Yeah. But no, the moment when he started dodging my attacks, I was like, oh, this is unfair.
Yeah. And everything goes in slow motion for him too.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I'm like, is there something I can do here?
Yeah, totally.
During this slow motion to then get him, but
he's just a badass.
Yeah.
Anyway, Then he dies, but he doesn't. And
he does it again.
This is when it gets hype.
It's so good. Oh my gosh, I loved the ending of this.
Yeah. So Ganon is like, you get through that giant ass health bar, and you're like, oh, okay, I've done it. This was the actual fight. And then, like in Breath of the Wild, again, it's not the actual fight, because he's like, I'm gonna be if I can't be powerful. He says some evil line. He's like, it's like a syndrome in The Incredibles. If everyone's super, no one is. Something like that.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And then he takes his stone out of his head that he put there, that he stole from Sonya back in the day. Takes that out, and then is like, I'm going to eat it now. And because we all know if you eat a stone, turn into a big old dragon.
Yeah.
And so he turns into a big old dragon and starts flying out. And you're like, oh, damn. Oh, no. And I was like, at this point, I was like, we about to do a dragon fight? Not quite, but it's I feel like it's close. It's close
pretty
to
damn
that.
Close.
So I remember the music was fantastic, as it has been throughout the game at this point. But Zelda Dragon, the Light Dragon, shows up obviously to fight the big dark evil Ganon Dragon. I think it's called what's it called? They have a specific name for it. Is it Gloom Dragon, or is it?
Maybe.
I can't remember. You can look it up. Anyway, and Light Dragon comes along, and you kind of, I think you're falling at one point, and maybe she shows up to pick you up.
Yeah, she catches you. It is Demon Dragon.
Yes,
and then
there you go.
Little subtitle is Draconified Demon King.
Amazing.
So good.
And then you just take to the skies, and you're now in this battle with this. You're basically right on the back of the Light Dragon, Zelda, up into the sky, and see this giant, which the Demon Dragon is like bigger than than any of the other. It's huge.
Chunky, yeah. Massive, super chunky,
there's a few little like eyeballs on the back. You kind of or like gloom spots.
Yeah, almost like weird infections. They look like infections for some reason.
Boils, perhaps. But anyway, I just jumped down onto them. I don't know if you did anything different, but it's kind of
you basically just dive off the Light Dragon. I thought that for a while I was in control of the Light Dragon,
Yeah, me too.
It
but
felt
you're
like
not.
I was sometimes,
Yeah.
and that it was like inverted controls or
Yeah.
whatever. Because anytime that I was pulling up, they were going up. stuff
Totally.
like that.
Totally.
But I just ended up diving down and then just pulling out the glider at the last moment to land right in the little divot where the gloom boil was, and you just smack at that. It's honestly like, it's super fun, but it's not challenging.
No, totally.
You can't be hurt.
I think it's pretty similar to the same thing they did in Breath of the Wild when you fight the big like giant pig version of
potentially.
Ganon, where it's like you are shooting, you're on the back of a horse, and it's not that you're not really dying. I think you're actually under more threat in that one than you are in this, but it's kind of, it's more like a big like hype spectacle moment than anything, which I think is I think it's cool because at this point you fought two versions of Ganon, which were hard fights. You
could get hurt, but you had to dive and dodge his like fireballs or gloom balls that he was shooting you. But they're not hard to dodge. I don't think I got hit once by any of those.
I'm going to put this up on the screen for everyone on the video, but I'll show this to you, Josh. I got this cool ass image of the light dragon with the blood moon behind it, and it was so sick.
Cool.
And anyway, and so you do that a bunch of times. I like that every time you fall down, because you like will destroy a boil, and then he'll kind of like knock you off the back, and then you keep falling. But then every time Zelda flies underneath to save you, and it's like hell yeah! And the music kind of keeps swelling like that. And yeah, it's just a super cool, fun, climactic ending. That it's like, it's really cool that. Obviously, it takes place in the sky, which has been a big focus of the game, and that like you're basically doing this all above Hyrule. But just that the game exceeds at these moments of spectacle as well as the smaller moments, and I think that's so cool. It's like you have that moment early at the start of the game when you like dive down and see everything below you, and the music swells then, and it's super cool. And you have that same thing here when you kind of go up and you're fighting on these big dragons and stuff.
Yeah,
super cool, super cool. And
then he freaking explodes.
Yep.
That explosion.
That was a nuke.
I was not expecting it. That explosion was ridiculous.
Yep. Totally.
It was so insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He nukes Hyrule basically, but it doesn't affect anything. It
doesn't. No, it's just him, but it's just this like, it's like a pillar of explosion. It's like straight up and down.
Yeah.
It's so over the top. I love it.
Mm-hmm. And then I can't remember how this next bit happens, but are you on the back of the light dragon and then you kind of get like do you remember how?
No, for some reason Link is suspended in the air, and then the original king and queen turn up behind you. You start like using your sage seals or whatever to like shoot out some magic. It's very unexplained. At the light dragon.
Something to do with love. It's something to do with
love. Something to do with love.
As it always is.
It's very nice because she's like, it felt like a warm embrace.
Yeah.
Sends out the love, and then the two original king and queens come out, and then they do the same. Their spirits do the same, and it turns Zelda back into Zelda Dragon, Light Dragon, back into Zelda. Yeah. And then you both start falling.
Yeah.
I think Link blacks out.
Yeah.
And then comes back.
This was the coolest. Even the spectacle of everything was so awesome. But to me, this was the coolest bit because it puts you back in control, and it's like press RB to dive, or like
and you can see Zelda like just a little spot of Zelda.
A specific wording to it. It's like dive to save Zelda or something, or like I want to find it.
Just dive to Zelda.
Dive to Zelda. Okay.
And when you get closer, there's grab.
Yeah.
So when you get close, you got to grab, and it's like grab and hold.
Yeah, totally.
Until you actually reach her. It just reminds me of oh crap! What's the game? What was the game before? Now I can't remember any of them.
Oh no.
Damn
I
it.
need something, Josh. I can't,
Yeah.
What was the game?
Shadow of the Colossus. The first
Yeah.
Shadow of the Colossus game.
Ico?
Ico.
Okay. I don't know anything about that, but yes.
Okay. I played that in maybe 2016 for the first time.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. One of the most delightful things, just in terms of like, instead of the text in Zelda just saying dive to Zelda, just saying dive, it says dive to Zelda, and it's like there's something poignant about that.
Yeah, totally.
Like just that text change. It
Yeah.
just reminded me in Eco, or Ico, the main mechanic. So the whole game, you are just leading a girl out of a castle.
Yeah.
And like there's a bunch of puzzles and stuff. But she won't move unless you are holding her hand.
Yeah, right.
And to hold her hand, you have to hold like L2 or R2.
Yeah.
And so there's just the whole game, you have to like run over to this girl and you have to hold her hand and pull her through.
Yeah. Totally.
Through the castle. And it's just this delightful thing where it's just like press L2 to hold hand and stuff like that. That game is so beautiful. I wish more people had played it. To save the game, you have to find these stone things that look like a couch.
Totally.
And you sit on a couch, and then when you load your save back up again, you're like asleep on the couch like this, and she's laying down on the couch with her head on your lap. It's just this delightful little addition. And they'll sit there until you press up, and then he'll like shake her and she'll wake up, and then you'll both stand up and then go off into the game. It's so cute. Anyway, everyone should go play Ico, even though it's like unfindable.
Yeah. No, it is very hard to find. I only played Shadow of the Colossus for the first time a couple of years ago, because I think it was last year, actually. Maybe even... Did I only finish it this year? What? Anyway, I can't even remember this. No, it was last year. Started last year, I finished it. Because
I played the two originals.
The remake was out, and it's a fantastic game. Anyway, we're not talking about Shadow of the Colossus.
We're not. But anyway, just the little bits of mechanic that is just like puts a little smile on your face.
Totally, because a lot other games would have just done that entirely in a cutscene, and I think the fact that it's like, no, we're doing the diving thing that we taught you since the start of the game, but we're doing it to save Zelda, I think is wonderful. The other thing I was thinking as we were talking about this is, it's really interesting to me how, without making her a playable character, which I know a lot of people want from a Zelda game, and I think that would be fantastic one day. I totally think they should explore what that would be. But they've done a really good job over the past two games, both across Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, of giving Zelda a level of agency that she probably hasn't had in the past. She has it to an extent in Breath of the Wild, because she's like holding off the calamity and all that stuff from in the castle, and you learn that she was like very active in like helping all the people in the past and all that kind of thing. But then you also have in this game, she is like central to the story, arguably more central than you are in a lot of the sense. And like the fact that she is present in that final fight as the dragon, and like ultimately when you're having this final moment, when you're going down to save Zelda, it's not like you're saving the damsel in distress. And across the game, it's become very clear that like these two had a like very close relationship and like worked together and stuff. Potentially lovers even. They were very much lovers. It's confirmed. But that you are like just saving the person you love, and it doesn't feel like this thing of like your classic damsel in distress moment. It's like, no, you're saving this person that has also done so much for you.
Yeah, there is a relationship.
And it comes together so well, and it's like, I really like how central she was to this story, and how, even though she's not at all present in your current day goings on, through the way they do the memories and like give that story out to you, and then you learn she is present in a way. It's just kind of, it's a really masterful way of like giving Zelda a place within that story, where again, it's been a long-term criticism of this series that she is that classic damsel in distress character, and they've tried to work on that over a long period of time. But I think I'm just really impressed with how well they did here, even without making a playable character, which again is something I would love to see. I think even if it's in a spin-off kind of thing to the normal series, I think we're more than due for that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping they do. Like, to some extent, I guess she was playable in Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah, totally.
Do that,
yeah.
but I feel like Nintendo could go that direction because they did just announce the Peach game.
That's true. That's true.
So they could be, they are experimenting with some of their
yeah, and I think they're aware of it.
And
I think
stuff.
there's been specific interviews with like Anuma-san and stuff about like how they want to, like they know people want Zelda as a playable character. They just need to find the right game for it, the right like moment for it. And I think that's cool. But yeah, I just want like I think it's really this game more so than I feel like any other Zelda game really feels like Link and Zelda's story. Again, I haven't played all of them, so I know she's integral to a lot of the other stories, but I feel like she really has like a constant presence throughout this game in a way that none of the other Zeldas I played does.
Yeah. I feel like she did, from memory. I'm pretty sure she. Oh man, did she? I'm trying to think. I'm just thinking of Skyward Sword.
Yeah, I feel like that was the other one that popped into my brain from what I know about it, of her being a bit more present and like.
I think she turns up more, in that.
Yeah, totally. And I think she always has had her moments of agency within the series, like even in the earlier games of like being like the mage that is like protecting a bunch of stuff. But I think my point with this is it's more in this game she really feels like she is relevant to every aspect of everything you're doing. Even when you're just talking to random people, they're talking about Zelda and what Zelda's doing.
Like
and
they've seen her or they've heard she's gone missing and things like that. Yeah.
And I think that was super well done. That like even though you're playing as Link, you're still like kind of as I said, I'd argue Zelda's probably even the more main character in this game than Link actually is, and I think that's cool because obviously Link's a silent protagonist, and you don't get a lot from him, so it's nice to have kind of explore it through Zelda's. This game is like kind of through Zelda's lens the entire time, which I think is super fun.
Yeah.
And there's two ending cutscenes, which I think one of them is just Zelda when you both fall down, you fall into like some water, which again hilarious that falling into water protects you because it
totally
doesn't.
safe. It's the best.
If you know anything about physics, that's not what happens. But you fall into the water and then you both come out, and Zelda's like, "Oh my god, you saved Hyrule! We saved Hyrule! Yay!" And then you have a lovely, basically, it's some British version of that, and then you have the other cutscene, which I think was probably like the more poignant one, which is you all go up to the Temple of Time in the sky with all the new sages and Minaru's spirit. Yeah. And Minaru kind of floats out of her mech and is like, it's time for me to go now, I can leave. And then all the other sages kind of make a vow to protect Link and Zelda and stuff, and it's very wholesome.
It's very wholesome because one of them makes a mistake, or a few of them make a mistake or something, and they all stop and laugh and then start over.
Yeah, they're all reciting like the vow or whatever, and it's just a very lovely end to a very lovely game. I love this game, Josh.
So good. It's up there. It's probably one of my favorites, like of all time.
Yeah.
Definitely going to be well up there on my game of the year, if not absolutely number one.
I mean, we've talked about it a bit at this point, but I'm well and truly, once I rolled credits on the game, and now that I've played the game plenty, it's better than Breath of the Wild to me, and that's not to say, like, Breath of the Wild needed to happen for this to exist, and I think Breath of the Wild is also a masterpiece, but this is, like, taking everything they learnt from that and just making what feels like the complete game, and I'm worried that it can't go up from here, but then also, like, we didn't think they could go up from Breath of the Wild, and they did, so...
Yeah, like, there's still... There's things that I feel are universally not liked in this game. Yeah. That they can continue to fix.
But they're still pretty minor, is my thing. Like,
yeah, they are, totally.
Like, it's like horse. My horse can't be summoned anywhere.
Stuff
like that.
Yeah, and the sages, like...
Yeah, which, again, I thought they just did...
annoying things.
They did better in Breath of the Wild, so you just go back to what you did there. And I think...
Yeah.
I think we're a while away from new Zelda game. I think they're probably going to... I don't think it's going to be the same overworld. I think, again, they're going to go back to the drawing board, but we do know that they've kind of talked about bringing this kind of open world philosophy forward in Zelda games. So it'll be interesting to see maybe how they adapt it next. New world, new engine, but I mean...
New console.
New console, that's true. But
Not going to be on Switch.
No, having said that, ultimately the point I come to is it's just like, it's phenomenal that these two games exist as a duology and are as good as they are. And that Nintendo keep doing this, because they did it with Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Then they've done it again with these two, and it's like, I feel like especially these two have perpetuated like mainstream games in a way that those original games never would have, because they're older by nature and stuff. Just incredible, Josh. Just incredible. I don't have much more to say than it's incredible.
Absolutely, yeah. Nearly every time a Zelda game comes out, it does come out on both platforms too, which is interesting.
Totally.
Sorry, it does come out. There's two games on the platform. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. For most of them, there are exceptions, but like there was two on NES.
Yeah.
There was one on SNES, but there was also an experimental satellite version of a game on SNES as well that was broadcast for like 2 hours at a time. And somehow you could play a game over, not satellite, but it was some weird thing. It was only in Japan. People have figured out how to track it down and build it up again. So there is a second one on SNES as well. There's two on Nintendo 64. I think there was maybe technically 3 on
GameCube. No, there's 2 on GameCube.
2? I was thinking Game Boy.
Oh, Game Boy.
What else was on GameCube? There was Wind Waker.
Maybe one Wind Waker and Twilight Princess were both GameCube, weren't they?
Ah, interesting.
And then Twilight Princess also came to Wii, but
came to Wii.
I think it was originally GameCube.
Yeah, and then Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword was on Wii, but then Skyward Sword was also on. It came out on Wii U. And
then Wii U had Breath of the Wild at the end.
Breath of the Wild. Wait, was Skyward Sword on Wii U?
I mean,
because Twilight Princess got brought out again on Wii U as Twilight Princess HD.
I'm not sure Twilight. I'm not sure Skyward Sword was, because I think it only got remastered for Switch. So it's on Switch. But yeah, I think the Wii U didn't have 2. But again, this is the Wii U. Whatever.
Yeah. It technically did, because it had Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild. But
yeah. But
there's always 2.
They did it. They did it, Josh.
Man, it was so good, and we've done it.
We've done it. We've made a whole ass podcast series.
We did.
Weekly podcast series.
We freaking did it. It was great. I really enjoyed this series. There is one like tiny thing I thought about it like right towards the end of this podcast. Towards the end of this episode. Yeah. And I'm like, this seems like such a nothing thing to bring up right now.
Yeah.
But I want to. Just the level of detail that they've put into this. So I feel like, I think they might have done this in Breath of the Wild as well, but for one of the first times towards the end of this game, I wasn't wearing like, a pants part of the outfit. But I went up to a chest and Link does his classic kick the chest and then it opens. But because I wasn't wearing the pants part of the outfit, it means he wasn't wearing shoes. And so he kicked it with bare feet. And he like grabs his foot and hops up and down.
I swear he did do that in Breath of the Wild.
I think he probably did.
Yeah.
But it was just so delightful to see that again. Like I hadn't seen it at all, but just seeing these little little things that I hadn't noticed before in this game, hadn't seen yet in this game, and just seeing it like just a new animation, a brand new thing that was just hidden away unless you're not wearing shoes.
It's the classic gag. They did it in God of War Ragnarok as well when Atreus tries to open the thing and he's like, oh, this hurts.
Tries to punch through a chest and doesn't make it. And it's just that one-off animation.
Yeah, no, it's... So much love and affection given to this game. We've talked about it at length over 7 episodes of a podcast.
We have. There's nearly 7 hours of us talking about this game now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's it for us for this. We don't know exactly what this is yet, but do we want to loosely talk about maybe what we're thinking of doing beyond this?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that. I think we may come back to Hyrule Hijinks if there's DLC as well.
We will come back. Yes, we'll come back to it if there's DLC, or if I do enough extra stuff that I'm like, I want to talk to you about some of this stuff, but I don't think there's probably enough left in the game that we haven't talked about. So, we could do it for DLC. We've also talked about potentially if there's other Zelda games that come out or remakes, or like if I want to go back and play an old game, we could do it for that. But also, we've been discussing that we just like talking about games in this format, in a weekly or potentially regular format where we just talk about actually playing games, because obviously in the catch-up, Josh and Will talk about video games a lot, and they'll often talk about just like their base level, what they've been playing, base impressions. But Josh and I are probably the two people that play games. We're definitely are the two people who play games the most within ETTO. And yeah, just have found this a really fun way to like share our experience playing games. And so we're not necessarily...
we play very similar games too.
We play very similar games. And so we're not necessarily going to do a new podcast for every game. That's not what we're going to do. We are in the process of working out what some kind of ETTO Gamecast would look like. Regular... I'm not sure we can pull off weekly. I'm just going to say it. I'm not sure we can pull off weekly if it's that regular of a thing. But at least I would hope at least every couple of weeks, kind of getting together and talking about maybe a big piece of news, but then also primarily kind of maybe like a game club style thing where we go into a particular game that we've been getting our hands on. Maybe one of us in particular is talking to the other person, or we both played a thing. I think ideally we both played a thing, but that's not always going to be the case. And just going a bit deeper into the gaming side of things on ETTO, because we obviously talk about movies and TV shows and stuff plenty of depth, and we'll occasionally do a spoiler cast. But I think our main thing was like, it's fun to do these while we're in progress of playing the game versus just always talking about it at the end. I think is the super cool part of it. So that's the plan. You may hear of that more in the future. I mean, if you're listening to what we're saying now at the end of this long podcast, you probably care enough that you'll be keeping your eye out in the Discord. But if you're not in the Discord, you can head to patreon.com/each their own. And for just a couple bucks, you can chat into all our channels in there, find out whenever we're streaming, whenever we do make that Gamecast, what it is, how you can get involved, because again, we also liked getting everyone involved in this podcast. And so, yeah, I think if you want to keep up with us there and you're not doing that already, you definitely should be.
I'd be keen to also pass the audio on to Will and get these on Spotify.
Yes, that is something I've been planning to do, is we'll probably put all the Hijinks up in a bunch, I think, if we can. But then definitely if we're doing a game cast, those will also go up on Spotify.
Exactly.
So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for listening along. If you've listened across these 7 weeks, or if you're listening to these later, maybe you played the game a bit later and you come back to these, that'd also be cool. Then just thank you for listening. We've had a lot of fun, and decent amount of ETTO doesn't get a lot of views, but we've had a decent amount of people watching along throughout them, which I think has been really nice, and chatting along in the Discord. But yeah, I'm not going to talk too much longer. This is already an hour. You've already listened to us for an hour. I'm sure you'll listen to us plenty more in the future, but we've finished Tears of the Kingdom, Josh. We did it.
We did it. Oh man, what a game.
What a game.
Definitely my game of the year. Holy crap. So good.
So good. Play more games to play this year. Play more games potentially even to play tonight. Who knows? Or maybe we'll go to sleep. Maybe we'll eat some dinner. Maybe it's not even dinner time for you. Maybe you're listening to this in the morning. We don't know. But until you do listen to us next time, this has been the best outro ever, especially to a whole series. I've been Ben.
Incredible job. I've been Josh. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. So long.
So long.